I've worked with thousands of students in the last 3 years of coaching Valorant, and here are the top 6 things you must avoid doing to climb in Valorant. The first common mistake you must avoid is failing to trade your teammates. Trading is the act of avenging your teammate's death by killing an enemy player. Effective trades help your team regain map control, and not doing so often results in your team being down a player and losing map control. Consistent trades also helps you out on eco rounds because you or your teammates can get a lot of damage done when playing together and potentially get some weapon upgrades and win the round. So how can we trade our teammates consistently? For effective trades, you must be aware of your position at all times to know whether you're playing first or second contact. If you're holding a crossfire with a teammate, the person that should be making first contact is a player that can't see as deep into the angle as the other teammate. The reason why the second contact player should have a deeper view of the angle that you guys are holding is because if the player who can see further into the angle peeks first and then dies, the teammate with the shallower view of the angle will not be able to see the enemy to get the trade. For effective trades, you also want to avoid being too close or too far away from your teammates. If you're too close, there's a good chance you'll get collided, and if you're too far, the enemy can pick off your teammate and reposition themselves before you can trade your teammate. So I'm talking to you, Raze mains who double satchel in by themselves on site and yell at your team for not trading you. Speaking of trades, the second most common mistake I saw across hundreds of students is peeking after their teammate already fought and died. You think you're trading your teammates when in reality, you're actually baiting them. A rule of thumb you should follow is you should peek as soon as your teammate gets into a fight.
But Becky, my teammates always peek too early and give the enemy too many ones.
Your silver teammates probably can't identify if they should be playing first or second contact on the spot, but if you're aware of who should be playing first or second contact, you should be asking your teammate to peek off of you, or you should be asking your teammate to tuck in so you can peek off of them. The only time baiting is okay is if your teammate is running it down or they're low on health, but even then you ideally want to make sure you're positioned to play off of their first contact. If you need personalized help like my students, we have about 30 spots out of 80 available for my 6-week live coaching program. Myself and a team of dozen Radiant coaches with VCT experience help our students rank up 5 divisions in 6 weeks through our series of live classes, drills, 10-man scrims, weekly one-on-ones, practice assignments, office hours, and more. These spots sold out in just 2 weeks of my last announcement, so make sure to click the link below to book a free call with me or one of my coaches to see if you'd be a good fit for our program. The third common mistake you must avoid in Valorant is overextending during post plants. How many times have you been in the position where your team has a player advantage and has successfully planted the spike down, but afterwards, teammate by teammate, you lose player advantage because your team is pushing out aggressively when all they have to do is hold a secure position on site? We've all been there before and have been guilty of doing it too. Overextending during post plants can easily cost you the round. To fix this, you have to be aware that once the bomb is planted, the objective changes for everyone. The pressure is now on the opposing team, the defenders, to retake and defuse a spike. As an attacker, you have the advantage of knowing where you plant the spike, and you should set up your position accordingly. Time is also on your side, as defenders will feel pressure due to having a limited amount of time to retake the site and defuse a spike. As the attackers, you want to remain patient while the defenders have to force themselves to make aggressive plays to get on site. Adding pressure to your opponents will make them prone to making mistakes that you can punish them for. But if you take unnecessary peeks and duels, you're applying zero pressure to your opponents. Instead of panicking, hold a position that provides cover while still having a view of the spike, or at least be close enough to hear the audio cues of the spike being diffused. You want to make sure all the choke points that defenders will be coming in from are covered, and you ideally want to have another teammate holding the choke point with you so that you guys can get the trade. You're playing for time here. Don't be afraid to use any remaining abilities and ultimates that you have to run down the clock. For instance, as a killjoy, put your remaining mollies on the spike and have your turret and alarm bot directed at areas you know enemies have to push. As a controller, use any remaining smokes you have to block areas that will be contested. Now, the fourth common mistake to avoid is slow peeking or shift peeking around angles. In Valorant, your movement and peeking hygiene are very important. Many players become too comfortable with slow walking because it lets you be silent and makes your gun become accurate faster when you stop to shoot. However, if you use this technique to peek angles, it does become a problem. If you peek an angle while walking, your shoulder will be exposed first to the enemy before you're even able to see them, giving them a huge advantage in the fight. This is especially true when you're slowly peeking an angle that you're closer to than the enemy. To minimize this disadvantage, you'll need to be running while peeking an angle. When you peek like this, your shoulder will be exposed for a shorter amount of time, making it harder for the enemy to react quickly. This is how you gain peeker's advantage. This is where pre-aiming also comes into play. Line your crosshair up to where you assume the enemy will be holding you, then run or swing out from the angle. Another option is to jiggle peek the angle if you want to gain info. If making noise is still a concern for you, utilize the movement threshold Valorant has before a step sound is made. You can do this by using the silent step peek method. Without holding shift, you can still move quickly without creating footsteps. This will take some practice, but becoming good at this can help you clear angles more quickly, accurately, and safely. The fifth fifth common mistake you must avoid is soft clearing. Soft clearing is when you're checking angles or areas out of habit, but you're not expecting anyone there, meaning you're not prepared for anyone to be in those areas you're checking. This can be a hard habit to break because it involves constantly being mindful of it. When you're clearing angles, take your time and always peek with the intent to kill someone in that spot. Developing good peeking discipline when clearing angles will save you from those moments when you check an angle, but part of you expected no one there and they get the kill on you because even though you checked, you weren't prepared for the gunfight. One method you can use for this is called slicing the pie. This is when you isolate each angle an enemy could be holding and clearing each area one section at a time while intending to shoot if someone is there. If you want a detailed breakdown of how to do this, I made a whole 46-minute video that explains every mechanic in Valorant. Now, the sixth and last common mistake you must avoid is wasting util. Timing is very important in Valorant, especially when it comes to abilities. You should always be looking for opportunities to use your abilities to get a kill, set up a teammate, or securing the round. However, using them requires thought. You want your abilities to have value. A good example of wasting an ability would be throwing a raise nade at a choke point at the start of every round without any information instead of waiting for a cue that confirms enemy presence. If you're gonna throw a nade at the start, it's better to have another teammate with you to secure map control around the space that your nade just created. Additionally, communicating with your team to coordinate ability usage can be highly effective. For example, playing breach and telling your team where you're gonna flash or stun so your team knows when it's safe to push or peek. Some agents have rechargeable abilities, so use this to your advantage. For example, on defense, if you're playing Sky and you're docking an area at the start of the round just for information, this is wasting your utility. Instead, gather info using your bird, which is rechargeable and will also give you information if someone's there. The same goes for an agent like Sova. If you want information, use your recon dart at the start instead of your drone, since the recon dart will recharge later in the round. Ideally, you should save your drone for a moment when a teammate can follow up with your drone for a potential kill. Using your ultimate without a plan of action can also be wasteful. When you use your ultimate properly, it can be game changing because of how impactful they are. Ults used to stop pushes, plants, stall enemies, or for impactful kills are the most important. On the other hand, don't wait for the perfect moment to use your ult, as that moment may never come. Instead, try to use it at an optimal and advantageous moment. If you recognize a way to use your ult that will give your team an advantage, use it. As a rule of thumb, try to use your ult twice in a single half. This is especially important since Riot has been increasing the cost of ultimates. KJ is 9 points, for example. And if you hold onto your ult too long, you might not have a second chance to use it in a half. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching.